Hey, Mike here with Reprint Equipment. Today's video, I'm going to share with you my in-depth review on the VJ-628D, which is behind me. And I have this machine playing in real time, so if anybody's considering buying one of these machines, either new or used, you can see the actual speeds. There's nothing being sped up. I'm not using any type of deceptive practices to entice buyers to buy something that they shouldn't. On this channel, that's what you're going to find. You're going to find real information. I'm going to tell you things that others don't want you to know. So if you're someone that is looking to buy a DTF printer, you definitely need to make sure you pay attention to this video. Also, if you're someone that actually owns this DTF printer, the VJ-628D, you'll get a better insight of the machine, what it is, who makes it, and everything that you need to know. And I'm also going to show you how you can actually make this machine better. Yes, you heard me right, better. I'm going to show you my hack that I did that actually made this machine a better machine. So let's jump into it. All right, so I actually owned this machine for several months. I actually sold it to a good friend of mine, and I'm comfortable to say that, I could sleep easy at night knowing that I informed him on the machine, its problems, everything about this machine that he should know before he made that decision. I also sold it to him at a price point where I think is, about what it's worth. I sold it to him for under 10 grand for the complete package, the dryer, the fume extractor, and the printer, so I can comfortably know that I put him in a machine that was worth $10,000, because in my opinion, that is all this machine is worth, the whole entire package. It's not worth a penny over $10,000, even new. And I must admit, I was a little jealous when I found out that STS could take a $4,000 machine and turn it into a $10,000 machine just by changing the ink set. I've had dozens of these machines in the past. They're no stranger to me. They're just a little Muto VJ-628 Value Jet made by an awesome company, a Japanese manufacturer. I love Muto printers, and I've had many of them, but never in my wildest dreams could I imagine that I could do a $10,000 markup just by adding aftermarket inks. This is just crazy. So that's what we're gonna jump into first. STS is not the manufacturer of the machine. It's made by Muto, a world industry leader when it comes to wide format printing. They are a great company, but you gotta remember that you're buying these rebranded through a third party, so you're no longer gonna get the Muto support. Once you buy this from STS, you can pretty much say goodbye to getting support from Muto. This is no different than the other two models that I could specifically tell you about. One is the Prism Jet by Sign Warehouse. They're notorious for rebadging Mutos. They've done it for a long time, and they offer the support on the machine after the sale. They're a great company. They do offer good support, but you would buy it at a higher price tag than let's say the Sawgrass little sublimation printer VJ-628. If you did a quick Google search, you would find this printer. If you typed in VJ-628, you'd see it at $4,500, and this is the lowest price point, which is offered by Sawgrass. Sawgrass is one of the pioneers in sublimation, and they are an ink manufacturer, just like STS. They manufacture inks, but their business strategy is to make money on the back end. They'll make money on the consumables and the inks in the end, so they put a little lower price point so that they can make the money on the inks. This is a great way to do business, and I've owned many of the Sawgrass sublimation printers. Their ink is overpriced, but you do initially get this machine for a cheaper discount. I would have hoped that STS would have done similar, but not only are they getting lots of money up front for the machine, they're also making money on the back end. And in their defense, I can say that between sublimation and DTF, it's a whole different animal. It requires a whole lot more support. And if they have awesome support, then it could justify that $10,000 price tag. But I'm going to get into my support and tell you why that they don't offer great support. Now, after having this machine for a few days, DTF, without a doubt, is a game changer. It is a lot easier than having to weed different colors of vinyl. And what I believe is DTF is pretty much our answer to cheap. When it comes to apparel, everybody wants cheap. Your customers always want to go cheaper, and DTF was a great answer to that. But it is still something that's very temperamental. And over the course of the 2 months that I owned the machine, I went through about $700 worth of ink just doing cleanings. This machine not one day did I come in and it ready to print. Never. There was always problems with the white that I had to address before I could get started printing, and that was every single day. And a lot of times they want to blame it on humidity. You have these problems, they say, it's your humidity. And I have lots of expensive equipment. I'm very familiar with white ink, and I have a great climate controlled with the proper humidity. So that was not the issue. And I promise you, this isn't how this machine should work. It should be ready every single day. If you go a couple days, now maybe you might run into some problems and having to do cleanings. I remember back in the early DTG days, having an Anajet and DTG kiosk. I remember, if you went away for a couple days, but there's no reason if you're printing on this one day to come back the next day and it not be ready. It doesn't happen in DTG print. Well, at least mainstream good DTG printers like Epson and the Brother GTX, you can come and print the next day. This machine should be no different. It's a Japanese machine. It has quality parts, and there's no reason that I would have had to run multiple little charges. Cleanings weren't enough. I had to do 2 little charges followed by a normal cleaning just to get printing every single day. My wife fell in love with the machine. As soon as she saw it and we made some t-shirts, she goes, "We're keeping this, you're keeping this." And I had to explain to her that this was a different type of animal, and she wasn't selling enough shirts to justify us keeping this machine. Yes, it was great. The quality of the t-shirts were awesome. When we did it in its best mode, that was the only way that we could achieve good results with this machine, is in best mode. And I'll tell you a little bit about the guy that I sold this machine to. I told him everything about this machine beforehand. There was nothing that I held back. And when he picked up the machine, he saw it printing in its best quality. He took the machine back to his location and started printing on it firsthand so he could see exactly what he was dealing with. And after 2 days, it was 2 days, he messaged me, or actually we did a video chat. He was showing me, he was doing some Pride shirts and a big batch of them. And he asked me first, "There's no way to speed this up. This is going too slow." And I told him, unfortunately, if you want the white opacity, a good white opacity, then you're going to have to keep it at that speed. Now, if you want to sacrifice the opacity and put out some subpar t-shirts, go ahead and speed it up. But if you want the quality that you can put your name behind, then you're going to have to use them settings. So during this conversation, he was pretty pleased. And then he said, "Well, I can always upgrade the printer. I already have the dryer. I have the fume extractor. So it's pretty bad when someone has a printer for only 2 days and decides, hey, I need to upgrade this right away because it just isn't fast enough." The speeds that you see in these videos, oftentimes they are manipulated. When it comes to DTF, not just STS, but a lot of these other companies are manipulating their speeds. Number one, they'll print a big box. I saw a video where they was printing just a big square so you could not gauge how many prints were actually being printed. You just see a big box so your mind doesn't focus on particular images so you can see exactly how they are printing. Another technique that I saw from another company at a show, they actually had a pre-printed roll on their printer, and their printer probably had clogged print heads. It probably wasn't maintained properly and clogged up, so they was able to run it at fast speeds, which you got the illusion that it was actually printing that way, but the back of the machine had already been printed. So it was coming through the machine. People were seeing it from one angle, seeing, hey, this is printing pretty fast. But they were never going to be able to achieve those speeds. So a lot of these sellers, they're selling based on emotion when it comes to these Facebook ads. That's why things are so dangerous right now. People are getting taken advantage of when it comes to DTF. Is there's 2 different type of buyers. There's emotional buyers, and then there's logical buyers. Logical, they pretty much want to think about things first. Emotional, they buy on emotion. So a lot of times at these shows, these dealers and vendors, they put machines out there, get someone in their emotions, and get them to sign up for a lease or put it on their credit card immediately because they don't want them to think about the logic of it, and they don't want to give you the logic. They want to talk about how much money you could make, but nobody wants to talk about the money you could lose. And that's what I'm seeing every single day. I talk to somebody about a DTF printer almost daily. Someone that's been ripped off, trying to help, how am I going to help them clean their print heads? What's going on with their machine? That unfortunately I cannot save everybody. There's lots of bad sellers out there, and I see this every single day. Also, since I buy used equipment, initially, whenever I reach out to someone about a used piece of equipment like this, STS in particular, most everybody has the same tone as a salesman. It's a great printer, it make you some money. Our problem, we didn't have enough business, always excuses of why they're selling this machine. And once I tell them who I am and what I already know, that's when they kind of open up and it's like, yeah, I messed up. I was at the show, I was sold this machine, it's bogus, shame on STS, shame on, Mongoose, shame on Audley, shame on all these places. But initially they want to talk about, how great the machine is and how much money I could potentially make with it. So it's no different with these Facebook ads. If you've ever expressed any type of interest in DTF, that's all you're going to see all day. All day long, you're just going to see DTF in your face telling you, you got to have this, you got to have this. And you eventually start thinking, I got to have this. This is the missing key to my business. I'm going to make a lot of money. But I'm here to tell you that most of you are not, without the right strategy, strategy, the right amount of sales that you're doing every single day, your machine's going to clog up. And this machine was no different. You know, there was many times that it gave me a scare. I thought, oh man, I'm gonna have to replace this print head. I'm gonna lose money on this machine. And when I buy equipment, you know, the goal is to make money, not lose it. So this was a machine that I had to constantly babysit, and it gave me many different scares. I thought it was done. Oh man, it's this and that, which will lead me to the support. Muto has a support group on Facebook at the DTF, VJ-628 DTF group. It was created by another user. However, now Shahar, one of the big dogs at STS, is actually an admin. And when I initially got into the group, I thought, man, this is great. There's somebody here. They're, you know, giving support. But all of the support that I asked for pretty much, because I really couldn't understand why this printer was different than a typical Muto VJ-628. You know, I knew it had white ink, but I didn't know why. It was just bad. I just didn't know, and that'll lead me to another point here in a second. But there was just so much wrong that I thought, man, something's just not right with this model. And as I got more of these STS machines, I started seeing them, you know, more and more common. I started realizing that it was amongst all of them. There wasn't just this machine, it was every single one of them. And I started reaching out to people in the group and asking if they had similar problems. And a lot of them said, yes, from day one, this is the problem I had. Some of them said after an update, that's whenever it came. So I'm really not sure the right answer to that. But I know that when it came to the support, initially, you know, I was impressed by Shahar and how he would get in there and try to help you out. But later on, I started figuring out that, hey, this is some copy and paste stuff. There's no real emotion, no real try to help, because once you got to a certain point, if you ask something about, you know, any type of item, they'll say, oh, it's page feed. You got to change your page feed, you know, copy and paste, write something out. But once it became a little bit more complex, then that's when he'd say, contact support. You got to contact support, which I sat on the phone many different days. I don't have a lot of time to sit and wait on customer support, but it was often days before I got the support. And when it comes to DTF and white ink, you know, most people don't have days before their machine is completely toast. So that was a bad thing. But the worst part is, after being in this group, I had helped many different people. And once I expressed that I had knowledge of certain things, I had a lot more people in the group that was messaging and reaching out to me saying, hey, help, help, help. Yeah, you know, STS hasn't been good. You sound knowledgeable. Can you help us out? Which I was glad to do. I helped many different people. But I ended up making a post and said, hey, you know, I'm getting ready to do a review video for YouTube, for my YouTube channel. I'd like to get real user input other than myself so I can give a more knowledgeable video. And I was banned from the group, and I reached out to the guy that manages the page, and he would never reactivate my account. So this is a bad thing. I don't think that people should be censored, and I heard this many different times. There's another YouTuber that made videos on the VJ-628, and he told me to watch what you say in the group, because they will ban you if you tell them, hey, this is a common problem, or express any type of hatred towards STS, you're gone from the group, which I don't believe this is a good way to solve problems. You know, you need to figure out the solution, solve them, make people happy, and not just block them. I see this commonly. You know, people come to me for printers and say, hey, I bought a printer in the past. I bought it from a seller. You know, it worked good. I got it home, and he blocked me. You know, STS is doing the exact same thing. But my biggest problem with this machine, the ones that I buy, at least, I'm buying pretty much the first generation. This one that you see behind me, it actually had the circulation system, but any printer that has white ink should never, ever not have a circulation system. And I've had to replace and put pumps into these machines that I purchased because I myself couldn't sleep at night knowing that I sent somebody out with a potential bomb that was ready to blow. This machine was doomed from its inception without the circulation. That's a very, very bad thing. STS solved the problems later on with these two little $10 ink pumps. These are the ink pumps that STS uses. They didn't create any type of mounting bracket. They just put a little piece of foam in there so they can shove them in, and they charge $2,000 to put these pumps in. So something that should have been there from the get-go. These should have been, when they finally figured it out, you know, they should have started recalling machines saying, hey, you got to send them back. We'll take care of it. We'll put these pumps in there, or give you a kit that you can do it yourself. And unfortunately, you know, they wanted you to send the machine back, you know, pay shipping there, pay shipping back, just to have these little cheap pumps put in your printer, which definitely should have been in your printer from the get-go. I couldn't sleep well at night knowing that I, you know, sold someone a printer that did not have circulation pumps, no matter which printer it was. If it had white ink, they definitely need some type of circulation system. There's no skimping on this. Shame on STS for that. And I tell you, I do have a relationship with STS. I've actually sold them a couple printers. The first one I sold third party, another company that, you know, rebrands their ink. I purchased it from me and then sent it off to STS. STS was an Epson S80. The second machine was a Brother GTX, and this was kind of concerning as well because I talked to some of the higher ups at STS. They bought a Brother GTX printer from me, and whenever I talked to them on the telephone, they told me that the reason they was purchasing the machine was they was needing to reformulate their ink. They had sold ink that was supposed to be universal, and for some reason it wasn't working very well with the GTX. So again, at the customer's expense, lots of people likely had ruined printheads because of this. So they wanted to buy the printer after the fact and figure out what was going wrong. And this is a bad thing. And I'm definitely not trying to knock STS. I want to make people better, make companies better. My goal is not to knock these companies, but I'm talking on behalf of the people that I talk to every day. Shannon and Sherry and Jim and Mike that have lost lots of money to these companies. So this video went a little different, than what I wanted to. I wanted to really, and I really am being nice in this video because I hear this every day and I hate people being taken advantage of. So let's get into the ink portion. What I found with this machine that I knew from the get-go, it has to be the inks. Just because you have a printer with the manufacturer that is an ink company does not mean you're getting good inks. And I knew that was the only common denominator amongst these printers that was the problem, was the ink. It had to be the ink. And I think STS later figured this out when they created their new ink, the XPD ink, and they say it's for their new machines only, which their new machine is nothing more than the same machine that you see now with a fancy paint job, and now it has 24-volt pumps. Whenever I watched their advertisement for this machine, they wanted to highlight, we have 24-volt pumps, which is kind of a smack to the face to anyone that bought the previous models with no circulation system. So this is a bad thing. But when it came to it, I figured, hey, it's got to be the ink. So I've tried many different flavors of STS inks. I've been ordering STS inks for a while. Since I deal in used wide format printing equipment and constantly I'm rebuilding machines, I'm wasting lots of ink. So I've always been trying to find a cheaper alternative, and I've had so many different inks that really scare me. I've had brand new printheads run from the ink, so I'm very particular when it comes to ink, and I've used STS on numerous occasions for DTG, eco solvent, UV inks, and like I said, they do make a good ink. I was not overly impressed, but for the price point, it was a good deal. Was it better? I can't say that for certain. There is a couple that I thought was better, in particular their UV ink, but I was never overly impressed. But you would think with a company that manufactures their ink that the ink would be good. So I wanted to go ahead and test this theory with this machine and see if I could come in and actually have perfect nozzle checks with another brand ink. But again, I'm scared of different inks. All ink is not created equal. No matter what people make you believe, it is not the same. It's not filtered the same. It's not outgassed the same. And there is terrible ink on the market. It is not all the same. I've had many people that have commented and said, I heard ink is all the same, and no, it is not. So I wasn't going to be quick to throw any type of ink at this machine. I knew that Roland, created, the BM20D, which has the exact same printhead as the VJ-628D, a DX7 by Epson. And I knew that Roland works hand in hand with Epson on their inks. Not only do they try to figure out, the best formulation, or they figure out, for the firing pattern, for the jetting. There's many different factors when it comes to ink. They also have conditioners that actually prolong the life of the printhead. So I knew that Roland and their relationship with Epson, that their inks were legit for this printhead. So I was going to use the Roland inks. However, I wasn't impressed that they only have 220 milliliter cartridges. I could burn through that really easily. So I waited a little bit, and the Mamaki printer came out and was introduced with their new line of inks. And again, Mamaki is a leader in the industry, and they work hand in hand with Epson. They use Epson parts, so they work with the manufacturer to have the right ink type. That's why they did not just put a machine on the market. Anybody could take some ink, thin it out to make sure it works with this printhead or that printhead, and that's pretty much what STS does. They pretty much experiment, create a recipe, they put it on a printer, say, does it work? Does it work? Does it work? No, add a little more water. We need some more water. We need a little bit more of this to get their ink to perform, so it at least works. When it comes to Mamaki, they're actually in the lab with Epson trying to figure out, hey, what do we need to condition to make sure that these printheads, the seals inside of them stay good? What do we need, the firing rate, the viscosity of the ink? And I knew that Mamaki had an awesome ink. When it comes to their UV printers, they leave a lot to be desired with their white ink. Their white ink is amazing compared to Roland, and a lot of these other mainstream ink manufacturers. I hear it often, Mamaki, their white is so dense, it's awesome. So I was excited to try the Mamaki ink, and here it is. I actually have tried converting many different Roland models that have circulation systems. I've done the VS, I've done the VSI, I've done an XC540, all machines that had white ink from the factory that had the circulation system I decided to start playing with, and I ordered this ink. It's the same type of ink cartridges, so I was able to put these in the Muto VJ-628, and I promise you it was night and day difference. It was every day that I'd come in, I'd have a perfect nozzle check. So I finally figured it out. I didn't have to just think it has to be the ink. I knew that it was the ink. And the XPD stuff, it may be better, maybe a better ink. But again, you know, they did this at the cost of the consumer. The people that bought it early on all got ripped off on machines. They didn't have circulation pumps. They got this bogus ink. And now the future generations that buy these machines will have, you know, better ink now. But it came at a cost that people that lost a lot of money to get there. So I cannot recommend this machine any longer. You know, I've been telling my customers, no, look at the Mamaki machine. Look at Mamaki. Hopefully Roland steps their game up and comes up, you know, with a faster machine than the BN20D. Japanese machines, I love Japanese machines. Chinese machines, I'm not sure when, you know, Chinese machines became good. I've had people give me these machines in the past, and I wouldn't even take them to dispose of them because they're throwaway machines. You know, people that are buying these machines, I've seen some awesome, you know, output produced, you know, in DTF on these machines, but people are going to see quickly that they're throwaway machines. Once they're done, they're going to the trash. They don't have a value. They're like a, you know, cheap manufactured car. They're not going to have any type of value. I see many of them on the market, and people can't even give these machines away. So at least if you buy a Japanese printer like, you know, the VJ-628 or the Mamaki or the Roland, you've got something that's going to maintain some type of value. But the only problem that I see with you being able to order this ink and use it, you have to have the STS chips. You have to have the smart cards. And there's many different sellers of these smart cards. But unfortunately, what I found, you know, these are people that I deal with on a daily basis. And I said, hey, you got access to these smart cards? And they all said that they buy them from STS. So what's going to happen? We'll see what happens. But my gut opinion is if a lot of people start using this ink in their STS machine, STS is a company, they're an aftermarket ink company, and they put out the fact that you should unleash the chains of being, you know, locked to a machine and OEM inks. That, you know, you should have the right to use aftermarket inks. You should be able to put aftermarket inks or other brand inks in your machine. This is something they've been an advocate for their existence. And now I kind of feel that if people start buying this ink, they're going to go against everything that they've ever said and make it so that you cannot get these chips because they don't want you using another, you know, ink in your machine. So if they're watching this video, they should not have any type of animosity of me pitching another ink, which I do not sell this ink. I have nothing to gain. I'm just telling you it is better. I have no animosity with STS. This video was made to be informative. Everything I've told you is from the experience, but I am bringing a voice, you know, a voice for Jack and John and Jill and Shannon that have been ripped off by this company and all these other. They're not the only ones. There's a lot of deception in the DTF industry, a lot. So be careful with what you buy. I'm going to end this on saying, these machines are not made for everybody. They are a different type of animal. White ink has not been perfected, no matter what you hear. I've heard many different stories where companies have said, oh, it's advanced since back then. Yes, you got burnt on that DTG printer, but it's so much better now. It is not any better. It's still the same technique that was made back then. The process of making white ink has not changed. It's not better. I'm hoping one day it will. But right now, you're gonna do a lot of babysitting. You're gonna, you know, you potentially lose a lot of money if you buy one of these printers. Nobody else wants to talk about it, but I'm going to tell you that the chances of you losing money are a lot greater than you making money. So with that being said, thank you for watching this video. I appreciate it. Do me a favor, share this video. Let's stop people from getting ripped off. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't. I forgot to do that in the beginning of the video. Make sure you like and subscribe. Very important. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.